Now let's look at some strategies to get the highest score in the IELTS speaking. Well, the first strategy is trying to be chatty, not necessarily smart. So try to talk as much as you can during your speaking test. You don't have to speak very fast. You can also take your time when you speak, but it's important that there are no silence periods during your IELTS speaking. Of course, the examiner will interrupt you as soon as he can understand your speaking level and will pass to a next question or to the next task. Try not to be too formal because it will sound a bit odd and a bit strange that you use extremely formal verbs or words in your speaking test. It's still an informal conversation. However, remember always to respect the examiner, not use any slang or any bad words in your exam, and also trying to use specific words when it comes to a specific topic, as we were saying before, like the environment or something related animals and plants. It's very important in that case to use the specific, maybe a bit more formal word. Of course, give open answers, so do not answer just yes or no, because in that case the examiner cannot really understand your level of English in the speaking area. So you can answer to a question saying yes, in fact, or yes, I had the experience, and so on and so on. So always try to continue talking as much as you can. Now let's look at some more detailed strategies for each task. So as I said, in task 1, it's everything about you. So they're really trying to get to know you and to ask you to talk about yourself. So where do you come from? What are you studying? Or why are you taking the IELTS exam? And the important thing here is to follow 3 steps. So the first one is give an explanation and directly answer the question. So for example, where are you from? I am from Venice. So that is the direct answer to the question. Then add some more details. Venice is located in the northeast of Italy. It has beautiful landscapes, and there are many tourists that comes to visit Venice every year. And then, if you can, give an example. So, for example, in July, when I went to the city center, I met people from the United States, from Turkey, and so on, even though the example can be made up, of course, like mine right now. And it is really important to help the examiner understand what you're trying to say and to express in your answer. Do not memorize this question because they won't come natural, and do not count how many sentences you're saying. Just talk as much as you can. First answering the question, then giving more details, and in the end giving 1 or 2 examples. In the part 2, you will receive a small task with a topic, and you will have 2 minutes to prepare and discuss and present that certain topic. So first of all, very important is to focus on the main topic. So it could be the last advice that you received, or talk about an advice you received from someone. You can add extra bullet points, extra topic, extra areas to develop in your discussion. But remember also that you don't need to follow the order of the bullet points that you see on your task. Remember always to speak until the examiner will stop you, and use this strategy, the 3 story strategies. So you will focus on the past, on the present, and on the future. So whenever there is a certain question, you will try to think about 3 stories, so you have enough time to fully fill that 2 minutes that you have then to talk. So for example, if they ask you to talk about arts, you can say that when you were a child, you used to have this picture book with the mythology of Greek, and that you were very passionate about them, and then currently in the present you're very into fashion arts and you have visited a certain museums about it, and in the future you really look forward to visit the Mona Lisa and to look at more arts in detail. So as you can see, there are various topics that you can talk about. So in those 2 minutes time that you have of preparation, really try to focus on what are your past, present and future stories. You can also add, and I would strongly advise you to add an introductory sentence. So it could be, I would like to tell you about 3 stories or 3 experiences of arts that I had so far. In the part 3, you will answer some general questions. So if the topic in the task 2 is arts, they could ask you, what do you think about arts? What do you think about today's arts compared to the arts that you used in the past? And so you can just give a general explanation on the topic and then use some examples. Remember always to answer directly the question, go in more details, and then use examples. Related to the pronunciation, just focus on being as clear as possible. And if you need to say a certain word, you need to take a bit more time to say it correctly. Don't think that if you speak faster, you will get a higher grade. It's important that you speak at your own pace and that you can pronounce each word correctly and clearly. If we look at the fluency and coherence for this task, coherence is mainly, did you answer the question that you've been asked? Did you develop the idea? Did you give further details and possibly examples? The coherence is also related to the structure of the sentence, the structure of your discussion and of your expression. The fluency is more related to speaking naturally. So avoid complex idea or complex vocabulary and grammar because it's very similar to how the computer works. If you open too many tabs, then the computer will be much slower, and the same will be with us. So if we use simple and clear words, sometimes of course we use a more technical word, a more specific word if we have a specific topic, but in general everything is very fluent and everything is very simple and clear to understand. If we look at grammar, what they're really focusing on is the functional grammar. So you use grammar in a way that is functional, that is useful to express a certain idea, a certain point of view. So what is the function of the verb? Should the student use it in the past or in the present? That is what they're going to look at. And what is the appropriate grammar to answer a certain question? And vocabulary, as we said, use simple vocabulary, just use very specific technical terms when it is really necessary. Another important thing about the strategies is that some topics may be difficult to explain and express even in your own mother tongue. So it's important in that case just to choose the easy path. Maybe you have a big view and a certain specific view related to school, but probably your IELTS speaking exam is not the best moment to add extra complexity to your discussion. So keep it as simple as possible and try to directly answer the question, then add more details and some examples. That will be enough to get you to the highest scores. Here you can see some linking words that you can use, for example, adding more information, and also as well as another reason is, or giving an example, you can use for example, for instance, such as, like, time phrases, so at the moment, these days, at the time, when I was younger. Being clear, so what I mean is, what I want to say is, as I was saying. Causes and solution, I guess it's because, the main reason is, I reckon the only answer is to, the best way to solve this is. Contracted and concession, so on the other hand, while, although, even though, but, or. Now let's see when you can actually ask a question to the examinator. So in the first part you can ask, can you repeat that please, if something is not clear. You cannot ask other question, and particularly in the second part you cannot ask question related to the topic or to a word that you don't understand. So the examinator will just ask you to start your discussion and to stop when he has enough information for you, for him to mark your IELTS speaking. And what about the speaking section 3? Well, in the third section you can ask again similar question to the first part. So could you explain that please? What do you mean exactly? Could you explain what exact means please? So asking question in general does not affect your score. So if you're unsure, instead of answering just what comes to your mind, just ask a further explanation to the examinator. Remember that in the second part, there are no questions on the prompt, there are just prompts on your card, so they will just give you guidance on what you could potentially talk about. So how fast should a student talk in the IELTS speaking? Well, keep it as steady as possible, talk at your own even pace, extend your answer as we were saying. Remember, answer the question, further details, and then some examples. Avoid any long pauses and avoid to repeat yourself too much. Avoid also correcting yourself more than once or twice in your entire test, and keep a logical order to what you're saying. And some general tips to improve your IELTS speaking are definitely to read as much as possible so you can widen your vocabulary. Watch TV series, movies in English with subtitles. That also helps you to learn new words, because you can always read the subtitles and link into what you're hearing. And also you familiarize yourself with the pronunciation and any words that might be useful then for your speaking. And again, practice as much as possible. So speak in English to a friend, to a teacher, and get some feedback on how you're speaking and how you're preparing on your IELTS speaking.